Hello, love. So happy to be back with you. First, before we get into the show, I just want to make sure that you're following me and hit the plus sign or subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast or if you're watching on YouTube. This way, I am just every Wednesday, I'm always in your app or I'm always on your channel. Yes, you don't want to miss a thing. This stuff is juicy. I know the podcast is so good. Okay, so first, before we get into it, I just really do have to talk about the weather for a moment. I actually told someone the other day that I felt like I had moved to, I don't know, Kansas, Toto. The weather in Arizona, I mean, nothing against Kansas, love Kansas, but it has been windy, cold, rainy. I just don't even know what's happening. We like today, it's going to be 70 degrees and I cannot wait. I'm going out. I'm getting out there because it has been the coldest, I think maybe even on record. I know for at least the last decade, the coldest. So, wherever you're at, I'm wishing you warm thoughts. I wish I could, no, it is going to be 70. I won't complain. 70 today. It's going to be nice and warm today, but we have been in like highs of 40s and 50s. I mean, what is happening? I know. I know. We had a windstorm the other day. It was crazy. I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening? So I hope wherever you are, you have lots of warmth. And if you don't, I hope this brings you some warmth today. If you have not signed up for the masterclass, I know it's happening on Saturday. You do not want to miss it. March 11th, 2023. So if you're listening before then, we are doing a masterclass. And if you are a member of Transform Boss Weight Loss, do not worry, you're already in. But if you're not, I'm opening this up to the public. I don't do it very often, but I wanted to do it. And this masterclass is all about how to lose weight like a boss. And I'm going to go through some fundamentals, but more importantly, I love the fundamentals and they're amazing. And we're going to just dig deeper in on them because this is a masterclass and we are going to, do some work together and we're going to do some actual exercises with food. So your favorite food, make sure you bring it. And it is going to be amazing. You're going to walk out of that masterclass knowing what to do, having a plan, and feeling like a boss and feeling better. That I know for sure. So go to beeflikecoaching.com/lose, LOSE. Yeah. And get registered. You want to. It's $19. I mean, come on, $19. It's the best $19 you'll spend. I know that too. All right. And I want to make sure you walk out of there with some wins. So #wins. Yes. So today's T-Boss take is all about our favorite. It's not. It's really not. I know, ladies. It's the scale and the number. When I was on the diet roller coaster, I had a love-hate relationship with the scale. It was formed through many years of just disappointment and frustration. And, the love part came if I was quote unquote losing weight. And so when I would get on the scale and I was losing weight, I'd feel really good. And so I'd be like, and it would change how I felt in the day. And if I got on that scale in the morning and I had gained weight or I had maintained weight, a lot of times I would feel really bad, like angry bad, like disappointed, frustrated, feeling like I was broken, something was wrong, feeling like nothing was going to work. And I really want to just dig into this today and give you my take on it, because this is what I do, ladies. I coach women on how to live their best life in a body that they love and how to lose weight for the last time. And so much of this work is this changing your mindsets and beliefs about things like the scale and what the number means. And I've done a previous podcast, what the number and what it actually means. So you'll want to listen to that. We'll put it in the show notes so you have it. But today I want to talk about this idea that when you get on the scale, right, you're good. And when you get off the scale, you're bad. And then also how to start to actually focus on something different. I always challenge my ladies to get on the scale, but I want to tell you the difference and why. So let's get into it. You have probably been on the scale. And maybe you are one of the ladies who you haven't been on the scale. You can't tell you. You threw it away. You got so frustrated, you threw it away and you just didn't want anything about it. But I want to tell you about this time when I was on the diet roller coaster and I was obsessed. I was following a new, diet. I was actually working with a nutritionist and I was on this very strict diet and I was getting on that scale multiple times a day. I had no concept of how our bodies fluctuate. I was restricting. It felt obsessive. My day, if I got on that scale and I had lost some weight, great. And then I would get on it later. And if I hadn't moved or maybe I gained some during the day, which that's what happens when you drink and, whatever, I would start to feel bad. I would start to think, oh my gosh, this isn't working. And I would go through this whole puddle of like, I'm never going to lose the weight. This is always going to be my struggle. This is so hard. I'm doing everything perfectly and I'm still not losing weight. So I would feel this extreme amount of just pressure. It was like a pressure cooker. Have you ever felt that way? Just like this number was everything. It came from this original thought that was really good, that I wanted to go to this nutritionist. I wanted to lose weight. The intentions were good, but the execution and what I was focusing on, what I was gauging my success on was this one data point. This number on a scale. Didn't matter how I was feeling. Didn't matter that I was learning new things. It didn't matter any of that. It didn't matter how I felt in my clothes. None of that mattered. That one data point. And as you embark on this journey, and especially if you're a client, all of you are students of mine, as you embark on this journey to lose weight for the last time, there are many data points. There are many parts of the process. And the number on the scale is the least valuable as a predictor of your success. I know you're like, Shannon, what? I know. When you're just solely focused on that number, you will have so much mind drama around if it's going well or it's not going well. And so what will happen is you will start to doubt the process whenever you gain a pound or you start to maintain weight. And you will start to look at that as bad. And then this is what happens. I want to take you through this thought cycle. You have been following your realistic plan. You have set your minimum baselines. If you're new to me and you don't know what those are, we'll link some episodes for you in the show notes. But whatever you're doing, if you're eating less or you're checking in with your hunger, whatever part of the process you're doing, you're feeling good about it. You're feeling amazing about it. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing something for myself. I'm showing up. And then you get on that scale and let's say that you gain 2 pounds. Suddenly, all of those amazing thoughts, all of the things that you have been doing, the feelings of committed, confidence, proud, all of that goes out the window. You just throw it all away. You're like, oh my gosh, I gained 2 pounds. And then you go into the puddle of these thoughts. I can't do this. My body doesn't work. I'm too old. I'm hitting menopause, all the things. It's not for me, my parents, my genetics. And then it ultimately boils down to, I'm broken. I can't do this. This has always been my struggle. Who am I to think that I could even lose this weight? And when you think those thoughts, my love, when you think all of that, you feel defeated. You feel destroyed. You feel just disappointed, sad, like all of those feelings come rushing in. And then you do the thing that you have always done when you are seeking comfort and escaping negative emotion. You start to buffer. You start to disconnect. You start to overeat. Ladies, if you're listening to this and you've struggled with your weight, you have buffered. You have put something in between you and your feelings, which most likely, most of the time is food. And so you have this thought, I can't do this. And this all stemmed from you jumping on the scale and seeing that it went up, or even that you maintained it. And then you start going and feeling all of these negative emotions. And then you start taking negative action against yourself. And then you repeat this cycle over and over and over again. I did this. I know this. I know this because I did this for so long. And I just want to offer you that there is a different way. I want to give you my take on it. The scale is just data. It's just data for you to use. You are not good when you lose weight or bad You are not bad when you gain or maintain weight. The number on the scale does not define who you are and your progress. This is so important. I think a better gauge if you're looking, so there's two ways I want you to think about this. If you want to look at, Shannon, I have this goal, I want to lose this much weight, and you want to look at the progress that you're making on your goal, then I want you to look at it as one of many data points. And I want you to look at this monthly, quarterly, and yearly. I don't want you to look at this the daily and weekly. And I'm going to talk to you about getting on the scale daily and weekly and what that means. So a better gauge of your progress towards your goal when you're looking at the number is looking at it on a monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis, because then you can see your true progress in that number. Are you maintaining weight? Are you losing weight? And maybe you're new to me and you've gained weight when you look backwards. No worries, my love. Moving forward, again, you're just looking at the one data point, but also monthly, quarterly, yearly. I want you to look at what is the progress in how I'm showing up for myself? How am I following the fundamentals, the basics of what I teach? How am I checking in with my hunger? How am I thinking about myself? Has that changed? How's the conversation with myself? There are so many other data points to look at. In Transform Boss Weight Loss, every month we do what we call a boss review, and we just look at progress and successes. We do this every month because looking at what you're doing right, looking at your successes will help you to have more of them. We think weight loss is just this number, but it's so much more. It's how you feel about your body. It's how you feel in your strength. There's just so many other things. And we focus on this one data point. And so even when you're looking at it monthly, quarterly, or yearly, I want you to look at those other pieces. How are you feeling in your clothes? How is your strength and movement and, flexibility? How are you showing up for yourself? How are you talking to yourself? Have you changed the conversation with yourself? How are you, this is from my bosses. How are you showing up in the community? How are you doing the course? How are you putting in your minimum baselines, right? There's so many parts of the process that you can focus on to see your progress. Ladies, healing your relationship with food and getting off the diet roller coaster for good. This isn't a 30-day quick fix. This is learning how to implement these 1 to 2 steps at a time. Now, the second part of this is the daily or weekly weigh-in and checking that number. The reason why I tell my clients that they should do this has nothing to do with progress on the goal. This is important. This is very disconnected from this. This is to get on the scale, look at that number, and see all the thoughts that come up. So if you get on the scale, maybe you've lost weight and you start thinking, oh my God, I'm so good and this is working. I want you to really challenge those thoughts because remember, your worth or the progress you're making, connecting that to that number just keeps you on the diet roller coaster because you are through this process going to get on the scale and it's going to go up a pound or two or it's going to stay the same. And when you can disconnect yourself from that and you're focused on the process and you #trust the process, that is when you get on there monthly, quarterly, and yearly, and you're like, holy moly, I'm releasing weight for the last time. But when you get on there, so the challenge for the daily and weekly is so that you can work on your mind. The daily looking at that number, the weekly looking at that number, it's so you can start to work on your mindset. So you can start to disconnect your worth from that number because whatever you weigh, you're worthy, lovable, beautiful, all the things, ladies, all the things, my love. All of them. And so when you disconnect from that, that is where the real work comes in. Because when I started to do this and I started to disconnect my worth from that number, I started to follow the process and love the process. I loved becoming the scientist of my body. I loved seeing if I was hungry or not, or what food fueled me. I started to fall in love with food that fueled me. And then Also, when I loved the food that I always loved, like cookies and sugar cookies or cakes or, whatever the deal was, sugar wise, I'm a sugar girl, then I could also slow down, really enjoy it, taste it, and also figure out, do I even really like it? I know it's this whole process I just started to fall in love with. And when you start to fall in love with the process, weight loss becomes easy. It becomes like, oh, yeah, this is what I'm doing. You start to get curious instead of beating yourself up because you got on the scale and maintained weight. We talk about plateaus, and Shannon, yeah, when you look at it as just data, then you can get curious. Well, why? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting enough water? So this brings you back to questioning about, oh, I'm doing the basics and, the body basics or the brain basics or the eating basics. They're my fundamentals. And we have lots of episodes in the podcast on them. We'll link a few in the show notes if you're new to me. And so again, just focusing on the basics of long-term weight loss instead of beating yourself up and then going through that whole process of, I beat myself up, I tell myself I'm not good enough, then I feel defeated, I feel frustrated, and then I go back to not wanting to feel that feeling. I want the comfort and the dopamine hit of eating. And then you overeat, and then it's the whole cycle repeats over and over and over again. And my love, there's just a different way. There's just a different way. And it's looking at that number in two different ways. One, you want to track your progress. And so tracking your progress means the scale number, also the process numbers. How are you making progress on showing up for yourself, changing the conversation, right? All of those things. And then the second part is that daily and weekly, looking at the number in that way. And again, this is just to start to become aware of what you're making that number mean so that you can challenge it and start to change your thought and mindset around what the number is. It's so interesting because I think we all have had this number in our head of what we should weigh. And it's just, I tell you, when you can disconnect and that number is just data and it just doesn't mean that much, and you start focusing on the process, you will start to find like, whoa, when you weigh in monthly or quarterly or even yearly, whatever you decide to do, you're like, whoa, like I'm releasing the weight. But more importantly, I've started to believe new things about myself. I've started to change the conversation with myself. I've started to focus on the care and started to treat myself with kindness and love. And when that starts to happen, it's just magical. It's magical, my love. I want that for you. I want that magic for you. So, one, hashtag trust the process and focus on the process. Again, pick 1 to 2 things from the things that I teach, the fundamentals, the basics, checking in with your hunger, or it could be the realistic plan. And then 2, disconnect your worth from the number. Now, this is a process of starting to get on the scale, see that number, be aware of what's going on, and then decide to believe something different. And number 3, know what you're getting out of the scale. Are you looking at it as data? Right? Just a number. And it's a way that you want to actually celebrate the progress that you're making in other areas. And in that, again, understanding like, what is it that the scale is bringing me? What is this number? What am I making it mean about my worth, and disconnecting it from your worth? When you start to focus on the process and you start to focus on what you're doing right and the successes, it is amazing what happens. It's amazing how you start to release the weight when you focus on the process and loving the process. See, for so long, I thought weight loss was just the hardest thing. I thought, oh, I'm never going to do it. But the hardest thing was my mindset. It was what I was thinking about it and believing about it and how I was making my worth and that I wasn't good enough, and making my worth about the number on the scale when I've always been worthy. You've always been worthy. You've always been enough. Next week, I'm going to teach you all about how sabotage is sidelining your success. Sabotage sounds like this big word, and I want to just make it not mean as much, and to start to shine, quote unquote, a light on it. That's from Gay Hendricks, The Big Leap. And as always, if you want to take this work deeper, come join us in Transform Boss Weight Loss. We'd love to have you. I'd love to be your coach and help you start to change your mindset about the scale and what it means in that number so that you can release the weight, so that you can lose weight for the very last time. You can go to jointransformboss.com to check it out. All right. Bye for now, love.